From the dawn of time, when the universe still swirled in chaos, when there was no day or night, no light or darkness to divide the skies, an ancient force rose to bring about the first order of the world. It was the age of the Titans, giant deities who embodied the primal powers of creation. Among them, one stood above the rest: Cronus, the mighty son of Uranus, the sky, and Gaia, the earth. He was no ordinary Titan. Cronus was a symbol of rebellion, of unyielding ambition, and, above all, of the fear of fate. As a youth, Cronus took the sickle given to him by his mother and rose against his own father, Uranus, who had oppressed his children and imprisoned them deep within the earth. On a dark night, Cronus overthrew Uranus in an act of ruthless defiance, declaring himself king of the Titans and ruler of the cosmos. But in that very moment, the seed of tragedy was sown. A prophecy echoed in the darkness. One day, a child of Cronus will rise to overthrow him, just as he overthrew his own father. And so began a cruel cycle, where the one who dethroned his father would now live in fear of being dethroned by his own child. Cronus, once a hero, slowly turned into a tyrant. He swallowed each of his newborn children whole, as if he could consume fate itself. But fate is not so easily deceived. And in the shadow of fear, one child escaped the jaws of the Titan. His name was Zeus, and he would change everything. In those primordial days, the world had no shape. Everything was a swirling mass of chaos. From that chaos, Gaia, Mother, Earth, emerged. She was the foundation of life, the source from which all things sprang. From her, Uranus, the sky, was born to cover and protect the earth below. Together, Gaia and Uranus brought forth the first beings of the cosmos, the Titans, giant deities that embodied the raw forces of nature. But Uranus was not a gentle father. He feared the power of his children, worried that one day they would usurp his throne, just as all divine beings fear their end. So each time Gaia bore a new Titan, Uranus would imprison them deep within the earth, casting them into Tartarus, the darkest, coldest pit of the world, even deeper than the underworld. Gaia wept. The earth writhed in pain for the children trapped within, and the heart of Mother Earth began to blaze with rebellion, unable. To bear the oppression, Gaia secretly plotted a revolt. She approached her Titan children, pleading for help. But only one dared to stand against Uranus: Cronus, the youngest, the strongest, and the most ambitious. Gaia gave him a sickle forged from adamantine, a divine metal that nothing could withstand. And then, on a pitch-black night, when Uranus came to lie with Gaia, Cronus hid in silence, waiting for the fated moment. In a flash, the sickle gleamed. Cronus lunged forward and severed Uranus's genitals, the very symbol of his supreme power. Blood spilled across the land, and from it sprang strange beings: the Erinyes, goddesses of vengeance, the Gigantes, giants, and the Meliae, nymphs. Of the forest, dethroned, Uranus screamed in agony and was cast into eternal darkness. Before vanishing, he hissed a curse. "As you betrayed me, Cronus, so too shall your child one day betray you." But Cronus paid no mind to the curse. Standing atop the world with the sickle in hand, he declared the end of his father's cruel reign and ushered in a new era, the golden age of the Titans. He freed his imprisoned siblings, built his throne upon Mount Othrys, the divine mountain of the time, and took the goddess Rhea as his wife. The Titans hailed him as a hero, a liberator, the founder of a new order. Yet deep within, no matter how mighty his reign, the seed of fear smoldered. Uranus's curse could not be forgotten. Cronus, who had once betrayed his father, understood better than anyone. If fate could strike once, it could strike again. So even as the world flourished, in peace beneath the golden light of the Titan Age, shadows crept quietly below. A tiny crack formed on the throne, a harbinger of the storm to come. Cronus's reign, the Titan King, was hailed as the golden age of humanity. An age without worry, without war, without hunger. But behind the splendor lurked a fear only Cronus could truly feel, for he could not forget the terrible curse his father had spoken before being overthrown. One day, Your own child will do to you what you did to me." That prophecy was not just a curse. It was a truth etched into destiny by the primordial gods. Though he held all the power, Cronus lived in constant dread of being replaced. He no longer ruled with the eyes of a king, but with suspicion, anxiety, and watchful paranoia. And then, the fated day arrived. Rhea, the wife of Cronus, gave birth to their first child, Hestia. But instead of holding his daughter in his arms, Cronus stared at her coldly and swallowed her whole without hesitation. Rhea was horrified. But before Cronus's icy gaze, she could do nothing. One by one, the next children were born. Demeter, Hera, Hades, Poseidon, all met the same fate. Swallowed alive by their own father, imprisoned forever in his dark belly. To Cronus, this was not cruelty, but the only way to stop the prophecy from coming true. He believed that if his children were never truly born, never allowed to exist, then no one could overthrow him. He convinced himself, "This is how I protect the throne. This is a sacrifice for the order of the universe." But can any order truly survive on the pain of one's own flesh and blood? Rhea, mother of the gods, was shattered. She didn't just lose her children. She lost her faith in the husband once praised as a savior. Her heart rotted with every cold swallow from Cronus. And then, when she became pregnant with their sixth child, she could bear it no longer. In the darkness of despair, Rhea secretly turned to Gaia, Mother Earth, her own mother, and the grandmother of the children being devoured. Gaia, who had once helped Cronus overthrow Uranus, now prepared to teach his descendant a new lesson in destiny. Together, they made a plan. When the time for birth came, Rhea quietly traveled to the island of Crete, where no divine ears could hear the whispers of prophecy. There she gave birth to Zeus, the final child, and the last glimmer of hope. Then she wrapped a stone in swaddling cloth and presented the false child to Cronus. In his panic, Cronus suspected nothing. He swallowed the stone whole, and in that moment, fate was deceived, but its wheels had begun to turn. While the future gods remained trapped in Cronus's belly, far away, Zeus, the one who escaped, was nurtured by forest spirits, divine. Goat's milk and the love of Mother Earth. No one knew that the storm that would topple the Titan throne was silently growing stronger with each passing day. High atop Mount Ida on the island of Crete, hidden in a sacred cave within the deep forest, Zeus, the youngest child of Cronus, was raised in secret. No Titan knew of his existence, except for the mothers and grandmothers who had shielded him from fate. The divine goat Amalthea nursed him with her milk. The nymphs of Curetis danced and clashed shields to drown out his cries, so Cronus would never hear the sound of a child. And in that darkness, Zeus grew, strong, wise, and filled with the fire of liberation. When he came of age, Gaia revealed to him the truth of his origin, about his father Cronus, and the siblings trapped within his body, condemned to eternal darkness. Zeus's anger did not erupt as childish fury, but as the flame of destiny. He knew the time had come to overthrow the cruel regime and bring light to the cosmos once more. With the help of the goddess Metis, the embodiment of wisdom and cunning, Zeus laid his first plan, to make Cronus vomit up the children he had swallowed. Metis brewed a divine emetic potion from ancient herbs, and Zeus disguised himself as a servant, sneaking into his father's palace, offering a cup of wine laced with fate itself. Cronus, without a doubt, drank it, and then, amidst agonized roars, each of the children he had swallowed was vomited out whole, in the exact order: Hestia, Demeter, Hera, Hades, and Poseidon. Now the 6 siblings stood together, for the first time reunited, not to embrace, but to wage war. The battle between the young gods, the Olympians, and the ancient Titans, the former rulers, had officially begun. The war raged for 10 long years. It was called the Titanomachy, a cosmic battle that shook the heavens and the earth. Cronus and his Titan brothers, like Iapetus, Coeus, Creus, and Hyperion, gathered their forces atop Mount Othrys. Meanwhile, Zeus and the young gods assembled on Mount Olympus, a peak that would forever symbolize ultimate divine power. In the early years, the war was evenly matched. The Titans, with their ancient strength, were still formidable. The young gods, though brave, lacked overwhelming force. But Zeus did not give up. He remembered Gaia's advice. To win, you must free those imprisoned beneath Tartarus. So, Zeus, along with his brothers Hades and Poseidon, descended into the deepest abyss, Tartarus, to release the Hecatoncheires, hundred-handed giants with terrifying strength, and the Cyclopes, one-eyed giants once imprisoned by Uranus and Cronus. Grateful to Zeus, these monstrous beings joined the Olympians. In return, the Cyclopes forged 3 mighty weapons: thunderbolts for Zeus, a trident to command the sea for Poseidon, and a helm of invisibility for Hades, 3 artifacts that would change the fate of the cosmos. The war reached its final stage. With lightning in hand, Zeus hurled thunderbolts that split the sky, erupting volcanoes and cracking the earth. Poseidon stirred the seas, drowning the Titans' front lines. Hades, using his helmet, slipped behind enemy lines to shatter their strategies from within. At last, Cronus, the proud Titan king, fell before his own son's might. The Titans were defeated, bound in divine chains, and imprisoned deep in Tartarus, the very place where they had once cast others down. Zeus, after 10 years of fire and fury, stood beneath a storm-filled sky and declared the end of the Titan reign. The dawn of the age of Olympus had begun, but the fall of Cronus was more than the end of a king. It symbolized the eternal cycle of power and fate, a wheel that spins endlessly, where each generation is born, only to overthrow the last. And Zeus, though the victor, would not escape the judgment of destiny. But that is a tale for another time. The Titanomachy was over. Zeus and the young gods had not only won, but had brought an end to an age of chaos and fear. Cronus, the once mighty Titan king, now became nothing more than a name lost in the depths of Tartarus, shackled by the very fate he once tried to escape. Yet, the tale of Cronus is not just a myth. It is a mirror reflecting the cycles of power, of destiny, and of downfall. Look back to the beginning. Cronus was born in fear, lived in paranoia, and ruled under the shadow of being overthrown by his own child. The irony is, it was his fear of that prophecy that led him directly into tragedy. If he had not swallowed his children, if he had trusted in fatherhood, if he had not walked the same blood-stained path as his own father, could the wheel of fate have turned differently? But fate, in the world of ancient Greece, was not something one could avoid or control. It was not a punishment, but an ancient law where each generation must face a choice: to learn from the past and create change, or repeat the same mistakes and suffer the consequences. Zeus, the youngest son, overthrew his father. But he did not rely on strength alone. He used wit, compassion, and knew how to unite both monsters and gods. And unlike Cronus, Zeus did not imprison his siblings within himself. He gave them power and thrones to rule the cosmos together. Zeus granted Poseidon dominion over the seas, Hades the underworld, Hera the queenship of the gods, Demeter the care of harvest, and Hestia the hearth of every home. A fair division, built on unity, and a redemption for the dark years that came before. But even Zeus, with all his glory, could not escape another prophecy, that one day his own child would overthrow him. Fate, once again, does not stop. It does not hate. It simply remembers. And so Zeus, like his father before him, began to walk the path of fear, guarding his throne at all costs, opening new stories of Hera, Athena, Apollo, Artemis, and Prometheus. But those are tales of other stars, of another age. The story of Cronus, the one who overthrew his father and was in turn overthrown by his child, will forever remain one of the greatest legends of ancient Greece. It reminds us, when power is not tempered by kindness, it breeds obsession. When the fear of being overthrown becomes a fixation, it devours the very heart of a ruler. And sometimes, what topples an empire is not an enemy outside, but the darkness within the leader's own soul.
Thank you so much for taking the time to watch the video. If you found the video helpful and interesting, don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on the notification bell so you won't miss any future videos. Wishing you a wonderful day, and see you in the next video.